All right, we are live. Welcome everyone to this month's webinar here on the MSP Success webinar series. I'm Jeff Johnson, your host of these webinars here, and your host today on today's call. We're going to be talking about how to stay protected and profitable in the age of cloud here. And so you guys are in for a unique presentation on this, something that we haven't had here before on the MSP Success webinar series. You guys are going to learn a ton here on this presentation and hopefully get some actionable steps for yourself and your MSP, things that you aren't doing right now to be able to make sure that you're protecting your clients better than you are currently, or at least know where the gaps and holes are so that you can mitigate those risks. Couple quick housekeeping items as we're going through this and everyone's piling on the webinar. We do have two pieces of it that you can do chat, or you can also do Q&A there. So if you do have questions for Joe, or I know Jennifer is going to be on the webinar in a little bit as well. If you do have any questions for them that you want to make sure that we get answered during the webinar, then go ahead and use that Q&A box. If you just have comments, you want to just say something out there, why don't we even start this with the comments or the chat? Go ahead and post up of where you are watching in from today. That's always a good one of doing. I know I'm here in Nashville. Joe, where are you in from? Where are you today?
So I am in New Jersey.
Okay.
On the Philly side of New Jersey. I feel like you have to define that.
All right, we got SoCal, we got Vermont, Houston, NorCal. I'm looking to see if we got anyone international. I'm not seeing any international yet. So if you are international, I'm not sure what Yup SJ is.
So maybe yes, South Jersey.
Yeah, that's what it is. See, you knew that. I wouldn't know what that meant there. But Kim, I knew Kim was not international there. So all right, we got all of those, and so we'll make this interactive with it. Now, something cool at the end of this today is that stick on for the end of the webinar. We are giving away 5 $100 Amex or Visa. I'm not sure which one they're going to send out, but one of those. It's all spendable, just the same gift cards that we're going to be giving out at the end for 5 lucky winners that are participating live on today's webinar. So you're going to want to stick around. We'll do those drawings at the end of that webinar. But with that, I want to turn it over to Joe Noonan. Joe is the GM of backup at Datto Kaseya. And really looking at this, as you see on the screen right now, unlocking the profitability in the age of cloud, and looking at this from a unique perspective on it. So, Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you. And we do have Vince is in Canada, so we are officially international here. that we've got all over North America. But Joe, I'm going to let you take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff, and thanks everybody for having me today. I really appreciate any time I get a chance to speak with our community and just ultimately talk about things I've been passionate about for a really long time. And hopefully you learn some things, and if you knew some of this stuff or can teach me some things, I'd love to interact with you on the chat. And Kim, don't worry, we'll be out of here early enough to go see the Phillies. Hopefully get game 3 here in the NLCS. I'm pretty excited about that too. So we're going to focus more on the commercial and business side of how we can be very, very successful when it comes to securing and recovering our customers together. We'll have some really good calls to action to get folks involved technically, and we will talk solution a little bit, but I want to just take a slant on all this when it comes to just truly kind of making money in this world and what that's like. So, we'll start a little bit with the opportunity. We'll build this up for a little bit. Backup these days is needed as much as anything because it's really a part of the security strategy. We have this cool phrase on the right-hand side that you can kind of see, it's the last line of defense, but should be the first security dollar spent, right? And we believe that wholeheartedly because really when you think about securing folks and our reputations are all on the line when it comes to failures in that area, it's really all about making sure that whatever could possibly happen and get through, if and when it does, you have the ability to recover from that. right? So having that in place first is a requirement. And then you can always build out your proactive solutions and stack and offerings to bring that together. And in many ways, sell those as a bundle or a couple of plans. And in the end, backup kind of becomes a part of that overall strategy, and a high value one and a highly profitable one at that, right? There's a lot of things driving this in all of our businesses. We know that ransomware attacks are obviously happening more frequently than ever, and they're more impactful than ever. And when they're successful, it means really bad things for all of us that are in the business of trying to keep people's data protected. Insurance, especially cyber liability insurance, now starts to bring on new challenges and new opportunities for all of us. As things become a little bit more mandatory in some of the industries we all serve, then that allows us to offer more premium options, more profitable options for us to deliver solutions in those areas. There's always still the things we have to worry about when it comes to disasters and outages and things that fail. When people's data is not available, when the things that they're trying to use to be productive from an application perspective are not available, that's a big impact for them. And it still is, even when you move to the cloud. It's not just all bad guys and security stuff. It's still some of the standard things you see around hardware failures and all that good stuff. And compliance helps drive our businesses too. There are more and more compliance requirements that say you must have this stuff protected in a certain way. You must test that all the recoveries are going to work in a certain way. And when those things become musts, there are opportunities for us. The doom and gloom slide of the week, there's a million of these. I could pull something from Reddit that just talks about how Microsoft will sometimes lock people out of their account because they see some bad practices, or there's a billing issue, or there's a bug or something like that. And these days, in the age of cloud, if you're locked out of your account, you're locked out of everything, right? That's so important now. The account becomes that kind of crazy single point of failure for many folks when you think about moving infrastructure and applications and things like that you're going to deliver services around to the cloud. Doesn't mean the cloud's bad. Cloud's great in many ways, but it is not impervious to all the things that we still need to protect ourselves from. In fact, in a lot of ways, the infrastructure becomes much more commoditized as we think about moving to the cloud. And the value we deliver on top of it, the data, super valuable for us and all of our customers. The availability of what people are using on those applications, super valuable. Therefore, securing that and keeping it running becomes valuable. Not just something that's behind the scenes as a service, but something that's out front making everybody money, and should be, something that folks are willing to spend on. Because if bad things happen and bad people are successful at doing bad things, it's really tough on our end customers that need to run their businesses. And that's something that allows you to add value for them and ultimately be more profitable. One last tie into the security world is that, this is the NIST cybersecurity framework that's so popular out in the industry, right? And it kind of gives people a blueprint of the types of services and areas to focus on from a solution perspective when it comes to truly protecting data from folks looking to do bad things to it. And notice how Recover is there at the end of it. But again, as we mentioned before, really the first and foremost aspect of this overall circle and set of solutions. But, there is a set of proactive areas that we're starting to add more into our suites around identifying the threats that are out there and being proactive around that identification, and then protecting. And I don't mean backup when we're talking about protecting here, but more like phishing defense and education for our clients, so that they're not clicking on links and doing bad things that allow threat actors into environments to wreak havoc, and then detecting when someone is in, responding to that particular scenario. And then when all else fails and we have to plan for it just in case, we never want to have a single point of failure in this whole strategy that we're putting together, the recovery piece. And Kaseya as a whole has a very, very broad set of solutions in the IT Complete platform that cover this entire NIST framework. And this continues to grow. It continues to see some gaps and fill those gaps with the IT Complete platform. I'm not going to go through all these products. Just the main point is, there's this framework that's a really good driver, I think, of the overall security world and the solutions we're putting in place. And it helps us kind of pick and choose the solutions we bring to it. Now, we're talking about cloud. Reality of cloud is that it's not all in the cloud. So when we think of workloads moving to the public cloud, some of us are moving them for customers. Some of them are, end customers wanting to move. Some are just new customers coming up and, they're starting out in the cloud. They're not doing much on-prem. But the reality is when we look at the market, it's very, very much still a hybrid market. And a lot of times folks want to talk about cloud, and even this is about cloud. It still needs to consider on-prem. In December 2022, a little over half of workloads are running into public cloud. That's going to grow nicely over the next couple of years, but there's still a high percentage that you can expect to have on-prem. Hybrid cloud is really still the focus. When we look at the spend in the market, especially in the infrastructure and where spend is in these broader areas, you have SaaS, like Microsoft 365, where the whole entire application and everything about it, all in the cloud. Infrastructure as a service, we're running those servers in Microsoft Azure, for example, very popular scenario. Platform as a service like Azure AD, right? Now, I don't need to actually run servers to handle authenticating my accounts into my applications. I have this service that kind of does it, right? That's platform as a service. And then we have on-prem. And when you look at the overall spend, right, not just where workloads are, but the general spend around infrastructure, infrastructure as a service, not bad. Second most area of spending right now that we see out of all this infrastructure and where it lives, but it's growing the fastest. SaaS is up there, growing a little bit slower. On-prem, naturally, still growing, by the way, still growing. And it's where almost half the workloads live, but the spend itself has obviously, it is a little smaller in some of these other areas, but it's still growing. It doesn't go away. And that's really what we're imparting here, is just that, the hybrid cloud reality is very much a reality. It's going to stay a reality for a long time, even though cloud's growing so much. But what's pretty cool is when you look at the infrastructure as a service piece, a lot of opportunity there when you look at the growth that's expected in the spend. And, that ultimately means that we need to make sure that it's protected. Now, this is a slightly different view of that data when we look at like how the breakout of on-prem SaaS infrastructure, so all that looks in the broader overall spend of infrastructure. Infrastructure as a service is about 16% of that total spend. It's the second most area of cloud spend that's out there, and it's growing the most, right? So lots of opportunity there. When you think about people on-prem and in the cloud, you got to consider both of it, we think. Now, interestingly enough, we kind of thought this world of this utopian cloud strategy would have been baked and done by now, given how long ago everybody was talking about it, right? But the reality is, cost of public cloud becomes a really big focus of everyone that's out there. When you think about SMBs, not as many folks necessarily realized all the gains in terms of savings that they thought they would get when they moved to the cloud. You gained a lot of things like you're faster and more agile, and you can get things spun up and provisioned more quickly. That's awesome. But in terms of spend, less than half actually realized savings like they thought they would. And 82% of SMBs that are out there look at managing spend in the cloud as their number one priority. And a lot of folks think, well, now this stuff's in the cloud, you need fewer people to manage all this stuff because it's easier. Well, you spend more time managing the spend, but you're also still needing additional skill sets to be able to go do that. So it doesn't necessarily reduce a lot of the people. So the cloud is great. It's got a lot of benefits. It just didn't create this like world of simplicity that I think everybody thought. So all that bodes well for a great opportunity to make sure that we're thinking about hybrid cloud, on-prem, public cloud, and the growth in infrastructure as a service, and using those as opportunities for all of us to grow, right? And when we translate all that SMB content into the MSP world, we've done a lot of good surveys around this for a long time. And we're seeing the same story, right? Is this an opportunity for MSPs, given what we're seeing in the hybrid cloud world of the SMB market? Absolutely, right? Being able to see that growth in public cloud, take advantage of it with additional value-added security solutions that involve recovery. Super important and super high value, especially as the infrastructure becomes commoditized. And this is where a lot of us can ultimately make money. And Microsoft helps us in this in some fashion, right? They're a huge cloud provider, but they flat out tell everybody, just because you have your data in my cloud doesn't mean I'm going to be responsible for it. They're not. They state this very clearly around their shared responsibility matrix. They'll take advantage, they'll take control and responsibility for running things. That's what you see on the left. Just makes things run. But in order for it to be secure, in order for you to have access to your data and the data itself, all that is the responsibility of the end customer or the MSPs that are managing it. And it's good that they make this claim because it allows all of us to help our end customers realize that, as we handle IT for those customers, there are things that are necessary to add into this and build up in terms of value from a security and backup and disaster recovery perspective. They're just required, and we have to bring those into it. So it allows us to do some of the education and a little bit of the selling that this is just necessary. And when we think about the standard, well, now it's in the cloud, things just don't go down. I definitely have to worry about security. I definitely have to worry about threat actors. And now I know that like the account in the Microsoft world can kind of be my single point of failure if I have the production environment and the data and the backups and all that sitting in that same cloud under that same account. The old problems go away, right? Hardware failures and stuff like that. Reality is no. Right out of Microsoft's service level agreements, when you run a virtual machine in Microsoft Azure, the typical virtual machine that a lot of folks run, the standard one, has less than a 95% uptime SLA. And what does that translate to? They're saying it's okay to be down 37 hours a month on that machine. And if you pay more, you can get that in a better state to about 4 hours a month, but those outages can happen whenever they want. And there's some minute service credits related to it. All right, so this means that, just because we're leveraging the cloud doesn't mean the same problems and same requirements for recovery and availability don't continue there, right? Microsoft does not take care of all of it. They leave the data up to you. And the availability of applications and servers is also, in a lot of ways, even though they offer some credits and things like that, they're telling you they're allowing a lot of downtime. And most businesses are not going to be able to afford this much. So that's on you to help bring some of these additional opportunities to those customers for added value and added profitability. But look, challenges continue to pop up when it comes to the process of how we protect our customers. I'm going to avoid getting too technical. We'll get into product stuff and all that kind of stuff when we think about demos and next steps in our calls to action. But, there's a couple key concepts. The first one really revolves around resilience. If I have an Azure virtual machine, if I'm moving my servers into infrastructure as a service in Microsoft, I could choose a Microsoft backup option. It's a paid service, and there's extra consumption and things like that that go along with it. And I'll talk about that later. But I could choose that, right? But in reality, what we're trying to do now is think about how we can avoid any type of single point of failure. Because from a profitability perspective, when we think about these challenges in terms of profitability, if we're unable to recover someone from something bad that happens, in many cases, we can lose that customer. Big hit to profitability. Reputation is on the line. So is ours if we're a vendor supporting you in all this. And that's a big hit to profitability. How do you resolve that? Resilience, right? And we'll talk about solutions in a little bit, but having everything under that same umbrella within Microsoft in its cloud and under its account, that ultimately creates a lot of risk. And that's a challenge. The other piece is billing, right? When it comes to the commercial side of how we maintain low costs, consistent costs, and run a profitable business, I see more and more of our managed service provider partners, they're doing contracts with their customers, right? Because it helps reduce your risk. It helps with, keeping a consistent amount of revenue over time. It helps your customers lock in price. And if some of you are looking at the valuations of your organizations and things like that, contractual revenue has higher value than something that can go away any given month. So as you do that and you have more contractual based revenue, if your costs are so wildly unpredictable that any month they can be different, which is typically what you see in the public cloud, that becomes a problem for managing your own P&L. So impacts the profitability as a result of just costs being very inconsistent and all over the place, which again, as you move into the public cloud, you're going to see a lot of that consumption-based model, cost modeling. That becomes something that's tougher to manage. We even called it out a little earlier, right? 82% of small businesses that move to the cloud, look at managing spend as the top priority. It's because this is complex. And then the last piece is we've been talking forever and showing a lot of data about how hybrid things are. So when it comes to being profitable, having your resources spend a lot of extra time learning different tools and not spending time on high value revenue generating services, that can impact profitability as well, right? You want to keep your costs, as controlled as possible. And being able to manage that hybrid environment and making that simple to manage, whether it's less expensive resources can manage it because it's so simple, fewer resources can manage these things because they're simple. Those become benefits to your bottom line as well. And that's really just related to, providing good hybrid cloud management when it comes to protecting all of that data that can be in different places. So those are the challenges, right? Lack of resilience, unpredictable costs, and, data being in different places and potentially needing multiple tools to manage the hybrid world. And we think we have decent solutions when it comes to this. We'll talk a little bit about Datto specifically, but just for Datto backup from Microsoft Azure, this is built exclusively for MSPs. And, the main principle that we have pretty much with everything we do at Datto is making sure that you are as resilient as possible and don't have single points of failure. So when we think about Azure, getting data out of Microsoft's cloud and being able to run it somewhere else under a different account is a core tenet of what we provide there. And, that's really what gives folks the confidence that through any type of failure, we have the ability to still recover. That's a key thing. And of course, being confident in recovery and making sure that things are well tested on a regular basis, that's a lot of time and effort for a lot of folks. And we automate that nightly for folks. So, that resilience and the confidence alongside of that, we think that's a good solution to the problem of having things in one cloud. The other one is very, very important. We talk about those unpredictable costs that you see in public cloud. Trying to protect that data, why continue to make that an unpredictable type of cost for you, right? This is going to be a high value service. Protecting and recovering data and securing it is super high value. You want to be able to control that and keep it as predictable and consistent as possible, especially as you do more contractual based revenue. Very important for the bottom line. And we try to offer that where what we do in terms of our Azure data protection, it does not touch or impact your Azure bill. We consume things like egress and storage and other types of costs that would normally be something that fluctuates monthly for you. We consume that across all of our customers at scale to help reduce your spend on those things and package it up for you in a flat fee that's contractual. So you now have flat fees. You don't have things like egress where when data leaves the cloud to go to somewhere else, so you have resilience. Typically you have to pay for every little bit of that. And some days it's more, some days it's less. We absorb all that and keep it as a nice flat rate for you, helping again to make the bottom line consistent and help you be very profitable. And then the last piece is, Datto's been a staple in on-prem BCDR for years and years and years. You have a common interface. So, your technicians that are actually managing, this process for your customers are going to have the same experience with Datto backup from Microsoft Azure as they would for anything that's on-prem. So again, helping you keep your techs efficient and again, hitting the bottom line in terms of better profit. Now on the spend side of things, we see a lot of folks, it's just very, very simple to leverage Microsoft's native tools. And there's fees to using those native tools. But those fees tend to have some hidden aspects to it, right? And that has to do with the world of public cloud consumption, right? You could use Azure Backup and you'd have to use Azure Site Recovery to truly kind of get most of the capabilities of what you could see in Datto Backup for Microsoft Azure. Now, our flat rate is always going to be a flat rate. We have to do a lot of estimates to understand what you'll pay for Azure Backup and Azure Site Recovery because storage consumption and all that is just going to be on a monthly basis, whatever you use. And usually the very first day is your cheapest, and it just keeps building and getting more expensive after that. But when you look at the things we do for resilience and the automated testing so that we're keeping things very confident that you can recover and you know it'll work because it's been well tested. If you try to implement that strategy with those native tools, it can be done. It's just those end up adding up as additional costs down the line. And you can see here on average, an MSP would be paying $139 a month with us. And that can equate to about $300 to $325 with Azure Backup and Site Recovery for a similar type of solution. So to avoid reputational damage, you want to have great resilience, no single points of failure, and confidence that recovery is going to work. You try to put that together with some of those native tools, your costs can have a lot of hidden fees that build up to more than double what you will with us, impacting profitability. So looking for those flat fee services that handle all that in one contract allows for a much stronger profitable service for you. Now, beyond that, it's not, there's more to it, right? When we think about the hybrid cloud reality, there's data on-prem, there's data in the cloud, there's data in SaaS platforms like Microsoft 365, there's data in PCs now. And with remote work, there are CEOs of the companies that you work with who take their laptops home every single day and they expect you to protect their data, and they're not going to listen to you when you tell them to have that data syncing into Microsoft 365 or something like that. It's just data's proliferated in a lot of different places, and the portfolio has ultimately expanded to allow you to protect that data in those different areas that they live. We have different modules for different types of backup, but it's your job to make sure that wherever data is, it's protected. We talked about the hybrid cloud reality. Now, the other reality of that hybrid cloud reality is that things are going to move a lot. Needs are going to change, whether it's you may have one customer go away or need less, but more customers coming in need more, but need something different. Instead of protecting on-prem, they need protection in Microsoft 365. These changing needs, when you're under contract for a particular backup module, they can lead to you having to double pay for a period of time and waste money in ways that impact your profitability. So, we've made some changes in our programs here, given our portfolio has broadened. And we look at this and we say, well, your spend from one backup module ought to be able to shift to another backup module if your needs shift. Just because you happen to be in a contract with us that helps you get predictable costs, keep your prices locked in, get the best pricing possible. It feels inflexible, though. It feels like that could be a risk for you because you could be stuck paying for things that you don't need within that contract period. Well, we allow you to move that spend to our other backup modules fluidly within that contract. And that's really what Flex Spend is all about. This was something that we launched at DattoCon a couple of weeks ago. Got a lot of great feedback on it, just because it's a natural evolution commercially for how we're helping folks protect data. Being able to future-proof your investment and move that around to where you need it is a big benefit, especially as you're seeing your customers move quite a bit more than usual. Of course, there's some program caveats. We don't want you to reduce spend in all of this, and every once in a while, depending on the situation, some change fees can apply. But in the end, the flexibility that you get by being able to move this spend is definitely, we think, a really valuable and unique way of kind of, attacking this problem of the hybrid cloud reality and all the threats around it. And two cool things that we're, letting people know about it. One is, on-prem backup and disaster recovery typically requires hardware. And in most cases, you spend money on hardware, that money's gone. It's a sunk cost. You got to find a way to use that hardware again. So if you move somebody to the cloud, it's just kind of like a wasted spend there. It's hard to ever get the value of that back and move that into something in the cloud. But these days, you can get subscriptions for on-prem BCR that includes our hardware. The hardware is included in the subscription. There's no upfront fee. That helps a lot with of cash flow, especially. And if you need to move within the contract of that particular hardware appliance, we're letting you move that as a part of this FlexSpend program. So, even something like hardware is included in what you can shift your spend in, if it's related to our newer subscriptions. And the second kind of unique thing about FlexSpend is that if you move from one module to the other, we know that somebody doesn't just stop their need for protection in one place and start it somewhere else, right? We give you an overlap period of at least 60 days. so that both modules can run at the same time and keep people protected in both locations. We don't make you double pay at all during that overlap period. And the overlap period is flexible if we need to do some different things based on your situation. And even in some cases, we can take the backups of the original module and maintain them with the new module so you can still access that data in some cases. So really making the move from one module to the next, we're making that as flexible as possible so that you can keep people protected through that migration, because we know it doesn't happen overnight. So a lot of commercial stuff here around total cost of ownership, making sure that you have a full resilient solution that you're confident will recover, and it's efficient for your technicians to manage things on-prem and in the cloud. And of course, it's a flat rate that can be moved between other modules of the portfolio for backup as your customers change and your needs change. That's really what we're doing here to try to uniquely give you a more profitable service experience with keeping folks protected. And we're going to do some polls. We'd love for you and your technicians to dig into the technology itself, get a demo from our specialist team, and learn more. And I'll turn things over for the poll aspect of things in the Q&A so that we can go through that piece.
All right, awesome, Joe. Yeah, and if you guys have any questions, and I know I do see one in here I see one from Wes, and then Patrick, I got yours in here from the chat. So if you do have any questions on this, go ahead and post them up here. I'm gonna actually, before I go to that poll on this, Joe, let's grab a couple of these questions that we've got here with this. And you may have answered this first one, but I'm gonna ask it anyways just to make sure that we've got it. Patrick was asking, are there still limitations with the amount of data I can back up with the Datto BCDR for Azure?
Right. And yes, we still have limitations. It doesn't go up infinitely, but we have literally this quarter, we have work happening to, continue to scale that more. So based on the different tiers of pricing we have for data backup from Microsoft Azure, you can get up to 6 terabytes of data on the initial onboarding, and we can let it grow a little bit beyond that. We don't shut people off if they grow beyond it and they started lower. But for right now, we do have that 6 terabyte limit, and that's just per instance of our software in the cloud. Naturally, if you need more than that, you can run more instances of our service in the cloud, so you can scale beyond that. It's just based on the size of one of our instances. And we will expand that, and we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, and I think from Justin, this is related on it. He said last time I reviewed, there were only 2 tiers, up to 1 terabyte and then over 1 terabyte. Is that still the same structure?
A little different now. So the structure that you'll see us going forward more with is the data-centric tier. Right now, you can get, per instance of the software, up to 6 terabytes. There's 4 tiers in it. It goes 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3. I'm sorry, 2 to 4, and 4 to 6. But you'll see some changes over the next quarter around that, so that it scales beyond that. But yeah, we're focusing on the amount of data we're protecting, and how we're taking that to market. That's the primary way that you're going to see us focus going forward. And we'd love to get your feedback.
Cool. Let's see. Wes is asking, where's the sweet spot for a Datto solution? Number of seats or users? ?
Great question. It does vary by solution. Datto's bread and butter all day long is, managed service providers working with customers, and those customers are typically 25 seats and less, 2, 3, 4 terabytes of data. That's the sweet spot of just where we see lots of the implementations. Now, bear in mind, our on-prem solutions scale as big as 60 terabytes in one appliance, and we have folks deploying those with hundreds of customers globally and very large data sets, because you can use multiple instances of our software. And our SaaS solution has many customers that are well over 5,000 to 10,000 seats each. Just from a go-to-market perspective, Datto suits that 25 seat and below range most popularly, but you will have no problem scaling up, to many larger organizations beyond that. In addition, Kaseya as a whole has more enterprise centric technology and Unitrends, where we have some very, very large customers that are 10, 12, 15 petabytes of data. You run into some co-management opportunities with larger mid-market and even small enterprise customers. We have some technology that has good multi-tenancy for managed service providers that can help there. But the MSP Motion and Datto scalability suits 95% of the use cases out there.
Awesome. So jumping back over, Justin had a question on this. Do you have another option for micro single server use cases? And he clarified on this. He said, meaning we have 10 micro servers running single use to back up those at 129 each.
So, Justin, I'd love to take that one offline because it's a really specific scenario. I think we're talking about, I have a bunch of servers, but not that much data. And given the tiers of data, maybe there's a scenario where you're paying a little bit more than you'd love, given that the data sets are small, but you have a bunch of machines that need to be protected. If I'm right with that, I'd love to talk with you offline about, other ways we can handle that properly in our packaging. And like I said, because we're doing some changes in Q4 for launches in Q1 around some of the pricing and packaging, just to make it simpler for these use cases. This feedback can be really good for me to understand. But for now, the pricing you've seen, there is a per VM option from 0 to 500 gig is one price tier, and 500 gig to a terabyte is another price tier. Or you can just buy per instance in our cloud, and that covers up to 6 terabytes. Those options are available. And if they're not working for you, happy to talk with you about how we make it suit your use case better.
All right, I'm going to do this real quick. We've got a few more questions that are out here, but before I get to those, so I've got two things here. One, I'm going to get to those other questions in just a moment, but I do have a drawing that I'm going to have 5 $100 winners. And so just hang on still for just another minute or two on that one here. But I'm going to put out there, and I just put out a poll on this right now, and just go ahead and answer this here if you're on live with us. How interested are you about what you saw today from the Datto team? Either I love the product, want to sign up, I like what I'm seeing and would like to get more information, and then not interested at this time. So whichever one applies to you is great with that. If you do say that you like what you're seeing, would like to get more information, we're going to pass that on to Joe's team, and they'll make it sure to reach out for you to answer more questions on that, give you a further demo, whatever it is that you need, or even those follow-up questions like Joe had. So Joe, that kind of leads into, I think this is Wes's follow-up question, where he was asking that around where's the sweet spot for the Datto solution. He said, how do we get Datto involved?
So for us, if you're a Kaseya customer, you'll have an account manager. That account manager can help you with any product within Kaseya, Datto, or otherwise. Outside of that, this poll, and when you answer this poll, just say you want to get more information. That's immediately going to get us get you over to a person on our side that'll reach out, and you'll be able to work with them on your specific needs.
Okay. Great. And I'm not seeing any further questions on here. So if you do have any questions, go ahead and still post those up. I'll be watching for that, but I'm going to name off our winners here. I still have that poll open just in case you haven't gotten to that yet. Go ahead and answer that. But we do have our winners, Joe. So the first one that we have here is Jackie Bradley. So congratulations, Jackie. Next one that we have is Matthew Barwig. So $100 coming your way, Matthew. Next one, he is actually one of our Better Your Best contest finalists from this year, Tommy Thornton. So congratulations, Tommy. And then second to last here, Vince Korb. Congratulations, Vince. And then the last winner for today, we have Brandy Fowler. So congratulations to all of you, Jackie, Matthew, Tommy, Vince, and Brandy. We will, from the MSP Success team, we will have a $100 gift card coming your way. So watch the mail for that here over the next few weeks. Congratulations to all of you. All right, Vince is saying awesome, thank you. So it paid off there, Vince, for sticking on here to the end. And Joe, I'm not seeing Wes said perfect, got it. I'm not seeing any more. I'm going to end the poll here right now. So any parting words, Joe, from you before we wrap up today?
No, I think we covered it. I love this topic, and thanks for joining us, and can't wait to interact with folks as you reach out to us through this process here. So great talking with you.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Take care.